The distant signal. The vast emptiness of interstellar space held no comfort for the crew of the Celestial Drift, a research vessel that had spent decades traversing the cosmic wilderness in search of something, anything, that might break the monotony of their endless journey. Captain Ear, the towering fur-covered being whose species had evolved on a high-gravity world of perpetual twilight, stood motionless at the ship's central observation platform. Their wing-like eyes, capable of perceiving spectrums far beyond human comprehension, scanned the holographic displays that shimmered with data from their latest potential discovery. "The signal is unusual," Cascus, the ship's primary navigation specialist, muttered. Their starfish-like body was pressed against a data console, 5 manipulative arms moving with practiced efficiency. Unlike most of the crew, Cascus had been bred for information processing, their compact form optimized for long-duration space missions. Ollie Talk, the third crew member present, clicked their exoskeleton in agreement. "Unusual doesn't begin to describe it," they responded, their diamond-hard teeth clicking with a rhythm that suggested both excitement and apprehension. The signal that had drawn their attention was unlike anything they had encountered in their 70-year exploration mission. It wasn't a standard communication burst, nor was it a predictable electromagnetic emission from a naturally occurring stellar phenomenon. It was complex, with intricate modulations that suggested, almost whispered, the possibility of intelligent origin. The star system they had entered was relatively young. A bright yellow dwarf star burned at its center, surrounded by a complex array of planetary bodies. 4 major planets and at least 5 minor ones populated this cosmic neighborhood, with gas giants lurking at the system's outer edges and a vast asteroid belt creating a stellar curtain around the entire configuration. "Regulations are clear," Captain Ear announced, their fur rippling in the ship's carefully controlled atmospheric conditions. "We follow the Intergalactic Harmony Guidelines for potential first contact. No direct intervention. No risk." The words hung in the air, a reminder of past tragedies that had befallen exploration teams who had been overzealous. Cascus manipulated the screens, bringing up detailed scans of the system. "The third planet looks interesting. A blue world, covered predominantly in liquid water. Atmospheric composition suggests complex chemical interactions." Ollie Talk leaned closer, their wing eyes rotating to capture every nuanced detail. "Habitability index. Marginal," Cascus responded. "Gravity is higher than our optimal range. Atmospheric pressure is significant. Temperature variations are extreme. By most standard metrics, it would be classified as a Deathworld, a planetary environment so hostile that most known intelligent species would struggle to survive." Yet, the signal persisted. Emanating from this blue-green sphere, calling out across the vast cosmic distances with a complexity that defied simple explanation. "We observe," Captain Ear declared. "We do not interfere." Little did they know that their definition of observe was about to be challenged in ways they could never have anticipated. Invisible threads. The Celestial Drift maintained a careful distance from the blue planet, its advanced sensor arrays probing the world with increasing intensity. What had begun as a routine signal investigation was rapidly becoming something far more complex. Cascus had been working continuously for 3 planetary rotations, their 5 arms moving in a hypnotic dance across multiple sensor interfaces. Dark yellow eye stalks swiveled independently, each tracking different streams of data with uncanny precision. "Captain," Cascus called out, their usually monotone voice carrying an unusual tremor of excitement, "I've begun to decode additional layers of the signal. It's not just a simple communication, it's a multi-layered transmission with incredible complexity." Ear approached, fur bristling with curiosity. "Elaborate." The ship's communication systems began to project holographic representations of the signal, intricate webs of data that pulsed and shifted like living organisms. What had initially appeared as random noise now revealed itself as a sophisticated network of information exchanges. "It appears to be a global communication system," Ollie Talk observed, their wing eyes flickering with rapid analysis. Multiple transmission points, redundant pathways, adaptive routing. The sophistication is unprecedented. Cascas zoomed in on one particular data stream. Look here. These are not just point-to-point communications. They're carrying multiple types of information simultaneously: verbal language, visual data, computational algorithms, even what seems to be emotional context. The implications were staggering. Most species they had encountered in their 70-year exploration had rudimentary communication systems. Some used simple radio waves. Others relied on quantum entanglement or gravitational pulse technologies. But this was something entirely different. The planet itself seems to be participating in the communication, Alitak said, mandibles clicking in a pattern that suggested both fascination and slight unease. Not just the intelligent species, but the entire planetary ecosystem. Ear's fur shifted, a biological tell that indicated deep contemplation. The intergalactic harmony guidelines were clear: no direct intervention, no contamination of pregalactic civilizations. But the guidelines had never anticipated a scenario quite like this. The blue planet rotated lazily below them, seemingly unaware of the extraterrestrial observers. Massive ocean systems covered nearly 70% of its surface, with complex land masses displaying an extraordinary variety of geological formations. Mountain ranges. Vast plains. Dense forest networks. Polar ice caps. The environmental diversity is remarkable, Cascas muttered. Most planets we've encountered have relatively uniform ecosystems. This world, it's like a living laboratory of adaptive complexity. A sudden burst of signal intensity caught their attention. Something was changing on the planet's surface. Magnify Sector 7 Alpha, Ear commanded. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing a landscape that defied their preliminary understanding. A human settlement, they now knew the dominant species was called human, was responding to what appeared to be an environmental challenge. A massive storm system was approaching. But instead of fleeing or hiding, the humans were adapting. Constructing temporary shelters. Organizing collective defense mechanisms. Sharing resources. Communicating with extraordinary speed and coordination. They're not just surviving, Alitak said softly. They're transforming their environment in real time. Little did the alien crew know that they were witnessing something truly extraordinary, a species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but fundamentally reimagined their relationship with those challenges. The blue planet continued its slow rotation, holding secrets that would challenge everything the Celestial Drift's crew understood about intelligent life. Unexpected resonances. The decision to deploy a covert observational probe was not made lightly. Despite the intergalactic harmony guidelines explicitly forbidding direct intervention, the Celestial Drift's crew found themselves increasingly compelled to understand the enigma of the blue planet. Cascas had spent exhaustive cycles designing a reconnaissance device so advanced it would be virtually undetectable by human technological standards. Constructed from metamaterials that could bend light and absorb electromagnetic radiation, the probe was less a machine and more a sophisticated sensing organism. Molecular camouflage is at 99.7% efficiency, Cascas reported, their multiple arms calibrating final systems. It will appear as nothing more than atmospheric particulate to any human detection systems. Alitak's wing eyes flickered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. We're walking a fine line between observation and violation of our primary exploration protocols. The probe launched silently, a ghost sliding through the Celestial Drift's advanced deployment systems. Its initial trajectory took it into the planet's upper atmospheric layers, gradually descending through complex meteorological systems that seemed to pulse with their own mysterious rhythms. First contact wasn't supposed to happen like this. Their centuries of exploratory missions had taught them caution. Patience. The universe was vast, and intelligent life was rare, but nothing had prepared them for the complexity of this blue world. The probe's initial data streams were overwhelming. Unlike the sterile, controlled environments of most civilizations they had encountered, this planet was a constant state of dynamic flux. Ecosystems interacted with technological systems. Biological entities communicated through multiple layers of complexity. Even the planet's geological systems seemed to be in perpetual dialogue with its inhabitants. Humans, they discovered, were not just survivors. They were transformative agents. In one data stream, the probe captured a community responding to a massive environmental challenge. A coastal region threatened by rising water levels. Instead of capitulation, the humans were designing adaptive infrastructure. Floating cities. Regenerative agricultural systems. Complex water management technologies that didn't just protect, they reimagined the very relationship between human civilization and environmental constraints. Another stream revealed something even more profound. When faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges, humans didn't just adapt, they collaborated. Different cultural groups, traditionally in conflict, would set aside historical differences to address collective threats. "Look at this," Cascas said, projecting a holographic representation of human communication networks during a global crisis. "They're not just sharing information. They're redistributing resources. Creating decentralized support systems." Ear, typically reserved, leaned forward. The fur around their sensory organs rippled with an emotion closest to wonder. "It's like the entire species operates as a kind of distributed intelligence. Not a hive mind, but something more nuanced." The probe continued its descent, each layer of observation revealing new complexities. A research facility developing medical technologies to combat a planetary health crisis. Engineers designing carbon capture systems. Communities rebuilding after natural disasters with increased resilience. But it wasn't all harmonious. The probe also captured conflict. Economic disparities. Political tensions. Environmental degradation. Humans were not perfect, far from it. They were messy, contradictory, often self-destructive. And yet, beneath that chaos, there was an underlying capacity for collective transformation that defied their initial scientific assumptions. Alitalk's mandibles clicked in a pattern that suggested deep contemplation. They don't just survive their Deathworld. They are constantly negotiating with it. Challenging it. Reimagining their place within its complex systems. As the probe descended closer to the planetary surface, the celestial drift's crew remained hidden, watching. Wondering. Their understanding of intelligent life was being fundamentally challenged. The blue planet continued its eternal dance, holding secrets that would soon challenge everything the celestial drift understood about survival, intelligence, and the nature of adaptation. The breaking point. The celestial drift had never intended to become directly involved. Observation was their mandate. Passive collection of data their primary directive. But the blue planet, Earth, was systematically dismantling every scientific assumption they had ever held about intelligent life. An unprecedented solar event was unfolding. A massive coronal mass ejection that would have decimated most civilizations was approaching the planet. The probe's sensors tracked the impending catastrophe with clinical precision, expecting to witness widespread destruction. Instead, they witnessed something extraordinary. "This is impossible," Cascas muttered, multiple arms simultaneously processing different data streams. Their yellow eye stalks rotated in patterns of increasing agitation. "They're not just preparing. They're actively restructuring their entire planetary communication and energy infrastructure in real time." Global communication networks were reconfiguring themselves. Power grids were becoming dynamically adaptive. Satellite networks were repositioning to create redundant communication channels. Entire continents were synchronizing their response with a level of coordination that defied their technological capabilities. Ear, the ship's captain, moved closer to the holographic displays. Their fur, typically a passive biological indicator of emotional state, was now standing on end, a clear sign of profound disruption. They're treating the solar event not as a threat, Alitok observed, but as a problem to be solved. Massive solar radiation would typically destroy electrical systems, communication networks, and critical infrastructure. Most species would be reduced to technological rubble. But humans were doing something unprecedented. Decentralized solar collection arrays were being rapidly deployed. Temporary electromagnetic shields were being constructed using a combination of ground-based and orbital technologies. Communities were sharing resources, knowledge, and adaptive strategies with a speed that suggested they were operating as a single, distributed intelligence. A research facility in the planet's northern hemisphere was actively developing electromagnetic shielding technologies. Another in the southern hemisphere was coordinating global communication protocols. Universities, government agencies, private corporations, and community organizations were collaborating with a fluidity that defied traditional hierarchical structures. They're not just surviving, Cascas said, their voice a mixture of scientific dispassion and something remarkably close to awe. They're fundamentally transforming their relationship with a planetary scale threat. The solar event struck with unprecedented intensity. Radiation levels that should have been catastrophic washed over the planet. Electronic systems that should have been instantly fried remained operational. Communication networks that should have collapsed maintained their integrity. More than that, they were actually becoming more robust during the event. This is impossible, Alitok repeated Cascas's earlier statement, but with a different inflection. Not as a scientific rejection, but as a genuine statement of wonder. Ear's massive form leaned closer to the holographic displays. Not impossible, they corrected. Just, unprecedented. The probe continued its observations, capturing moments of extraordinary human resilience. Communities supporting each other. Scientists sharing real-time data. Engineers improvising solutions. Political systems temporarily setting aside differences to address the collective challenge. It wasn't perfect. There were failures. Mistakes. Areas of the planet that suffered significant damage. But the overall response was nothing short of miraculous. They don't just survive, Ear said softly, a statement that would have been heretical among their species just days earlier. They evolve. In real time. As a collective. The blue planet continued its rotation, having just demonstrated a capacity for survival that challenged everything the Celestial Drift's crew understood about intelligent life. And they were only beginning to understand. The quantum of humanity. The decision came after what seemed like an eternity of debate, though in cosmic terms, it was merely a moment, a microscopic fraction of a planetary rotation. We cannot continue to merely observe, Ear announced, their fur shifting in patterns that suggested internal conflict rarely seen among their typically methodical species. The celestial drift had crossed a line. Not of physical proximity, but of scientific and philosophical understanding. The blue planet, Earth, had become more than a subject of study. It had become a profound enigma that challenged the very foundations of their interstellar knowledge. Cascas had compiled a comprehensive report that would revolutionize their understanding of intelligent life. It wasn't just a document. It was a testament to human complexity. The key revelations were staggering. Humans were a species defined not by their current state, but by their potential for transformation. Where most civilizations reached a technological plateau and stagnated, humans seemed to view challenges as opportunities for fundamental reimagining. Their social structures were not rigid hierarchies but dynamic, adaptive networks. Political systems, economic models, technological infrastructure, all were in a constant state of negotiation and evolution. What appeared chaotic was actually a sophisticated form of collective intelligence. Take their response to planetary challenges. Climate change wasn't just an environmental issue, it was a catalyst for reimagining their entire relationship with planetary systems. Technological innovations emerged not from a centralized plan, but from a distributed network of researchers, communities, and individuals. Their biological and technological systems were becoming increasingly integrated. Not through invasive cybernetic modifications, but through adaptive technologies that expanded human capability while maintaining individual autonomy. "We've been approaching first contact entirely wrong," Alitak observed, their wing eyes rotating in a pattern of deep contemplation. "We've been looking for a unified, monolithic intelligent species. But humans are something else entirely. They were a quantum civilization. Simultaneously existing in multiple states. Capable of destruction and creation. Of conflict and unprecedented collaboration. Of technological sophistication and profound ecological sensitivity." The probe had captured moments that defied traditional understanding. Scientists sharing research across global networks during a pandemic. Communities rebuilding after natural disasters with increased resilience. Young individuals developing technologies to address global challenges. ER made the unprecedented decision to leave a message. Not a traditional communication, but a complex data package that would be almost impossible for current human technology to fully decode, a scientific and philosophical gift that would take generations to understand. The message contained more than information. It was an invitation. A recognition of humanity's potential. As the celestial drift prepared to depart the solar system, Cascas made a final observation that would be recorded in their species' historical archives. "They are not just survivors of a death world," Cascas said, their multiple arms moving in a gesture of profound respect. "They are architects of possibility." The blue planet continued its eternal dance around its yellow star, unaware that it had just passed a cosmic test few civilizations had ever encountered. Humanity had been observed. And found extraordinary.